Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. Sorry to let you wait. Welcome to today's show. Very happy to have you. Today, I'm by myself. Yase is enjoying a day off. She's in the mountains, in the beautiful Swiss mountains. And happy to have you here for today's episode with the topic rich versus wealthy. This is Fast Track Money with Financial Imagineer. And we are here to teach you about money, to make more with out of your life by handling and managing your money. Today's topic is something I believe is very, very important for a lot of people because rich and wealthy is oftentimes confused. So a lot of people believe rich and wealthy is exactly the same thing. But today we are going to bust this myth in a way, and we're going to tell you why we believe it's not the case. Do you know the difference between rich and wealthy, by the way? If you have any questions or inputs, feel free to use the comment section. Okay, I see here Yase is commenting. Yase is stay at home, rich versus wealthy. Good. Let me know if you have any questions there. We have a comment section here. And good. So most people believe you are rich, which means you spend money. You have money available and you appear to be rich. So that's, I think, the essence of this whole thing. So how much income do you have? Does it mean you are rich or wealthy? Maybe if you have a high income, it could mean that you can afford a lot and therefore you could be rich, right? Because you can look and appear rich. You can have the nice sports car, the great vacation. You can have a lot of things other people cannot have. But are you wealthy if you have a high income? And that's where it gets interesting. I say it's not the case. You are wealthy if you manage to save and put the difference between what you spend and what you save to investments. And then you have to build wealth with that. So the part about being rich, it's more about how much money you spend, how much money you actually lose. And therefore, it's actually, in my view, the opposite of being wealthy. While wealthy is more about how much money you put aside, how much money you put to work for you so that you actually can work less. And when we go now through this topic, I think there's a lot of points we can actually go deeper. It's a medium deep dive today. And so one question is like, how much money do you think somebody rich would have to spend or should spend? I think it's some people, they believe if they can have the nice sports car, the 5-star hotel stays, business class travel and so on, then they have achieved something in life. They have made it. They are rich. But some people actually don't really realize that as they go through life and their pay actually increases, that it doesn't really help by just spending the money. So actually it's like you're in a hamster wheel and your colleagues also get the salary raise, the promotion, the great bonus, and so on. And at the end, you may have actually earned a lot, but you kept nothing at all, right? So you're back to ground zero. And therefore you actually live a rich life, but you never made it to wealthy status, so to say. And that's the big confusion there. So wealthy is something that you cannot see. So that's the big difference here. Rich is something that people put to display. They show off and you actually see, oh, this person can do this. This person has the nice car. It looks rich. But actually, if you just look at these people, you wouldn't know how rich they are. You just see that they spend a lot of money. And that can be people that actually earn a lot of money and spend it because they think I deserve to do that. It could be people who have already some money. So they could be wealthy people that appear rich, and they use the income from their assets to actually finance their lifestyle. And there is a third category, which I believe is the worst one, or so to say, the one that I feel they have to really take some measures in life to change something. It's the people who take up debt, consumer debt mostly. So they're highly indebted, and they use this money that they borrow from banks and other places to to actually finance a lifestyle that they in the first place they cannot even afford. Oh yeah, in Asia you are rich. You need to let people know that you are rich, especially for business. Yes, exactly. So people people will look at others and look up or down to them, right? So in Asia, maybe you need to have the nice watch, you need to have a good suit, you need to have the expensive car. Otherwise, some social circles will not see you as one of their own. I believe in Europe it's less the case, but I believe it's something in the culture everywhere. So if somebody comes to you with lousy clothes and would like to do business with you, you probably will doubt that person. And by the way, you wouldn't know how wealthy that person is. It could be a super wealthy person. So I actually knew a very wealthy person in Taiwan, and was quite interesting. We actually went to see that person with some managers from a private bank, and the client, actually the wealthy guy, was sitting there in underwear, eating his binlang, and he didn't look like the manager, but yes, he was the manager. And when we arrived there, the manager didn't really pay attention to that guy sitting there outside of the office, chewing on his betel nut, right? But later we had to tell, actually, this is the client, this is the wealthy, this is our client, right? So basically, you could call people that behave like that, the people that follow certain things, like they call it stealth wealth. You are wealthy, but you don't show it, you don't show off. So that's why it's very hard to identify sometimes who is truly wealthy and who is not. There's a lot of people who show off, and like I said, that could be really because they are wealthy. It could be because they have a high income, or it could be because of debt. But the people who are truly wealthy, they can choose to do either way. So they don't have to be spending a lot of money because they don't need it, right? If you have your money, why should you? If you don't like to wear a suit, or if you don't like to drive an expensive car, or always wear a heavy expensive watch, nobody can force you to do that, right? So you are free to do differently. And that's why the conclusion from this first part today is, just because you appear rich doesn't mean you are wealthy. That's number one. Just because you appear rich does not mean you are wealthy. And the other way is also, if you want to be wealthy, don't try to become wealthy by appearing rich. So it's just the reverse conclusion, because actually it's not really what will make you wealthy in the first case, except it's something that you need for business access to certain meetings and stuff, right? So some people live rich but stay poor. Some even have piles of debt. And a big, great example for this kind of people is, you guess what? It's the celebrities. You have probably heard stories of actors, maybe people who had tremendous income, or lottery winners, people who got overnight famous. You can also say overnight rich. And then they started to have, like, I think I heard stories. The worst story I've read preparing for this session today was about MC Hammer. I think he bought huge mansions, spent money here, spent money there, have people working for him, serving him food and so on. It's things he wouldn't need, right? And before he knew it, he was bankrupt because he had one song that was "You Can Touch This," and after that I have never heard a second song of him, right? So once this income source that was tremendous and it was great, kind of disappeared again. He didn't know how to maintain that lifestyle. And that's the problem sometimes. If people get rich very quick, they also get poor again very quick. And that's why another takeaway today is instead of going for the get rich quick scheme, maybe rather try to go for something that is like building wealth. Building wealth is not something that happens overnight. We will conclude at the end, it's a mindset eventually. So it's something you have to build, and it will take time to get wealthy. And you can avoid a lot of mistakes by avoiding the lifestyle inflation trap. What is lifestyle inflation? It is as you grow through your career, your income will grow, you will get more money, and you actually also start to spend more money. The older you get, the more you have, the more you actually spend. And then at the end, when you're at the end of your career, you have nothing to show for. So that's some people call it also to keep up with the Joneses. It's like you have your neighbors. If they get the new car, you need to have an even better car. If they do a expensive kitchen renovation, you need to do a kitchen renovation. If they go to and show off their vacations, you have to do the same. And that's not healthy, because you actually increase the spendings year over year over year. And at the end, you have nothing that you have kept, nothing that you have invested. And you're back to ground zero, and the whole thing was for nothing. Of course, you can argue you had memories, you have invested some time into vacations and so on. But you probably feel that people who try to derive happiness from spending money, the more you spend and the more often you repeat that, the less it works. It's not something that lasts. So it's not really the true meaning of life to go into a spending loop and don't really have something to show for. So, and yeah, on the other side, you have people that live on a rather low profile, and they work hard, maybe also smart, and they save and invest. And these people, they usually get wealthy, not quick, but overnight. Not overnight, but over time. And that's actually what we should aspire to try to go for. You have to understand that's something you can choose to change in your life. So being wealthy, what does that mean? So being rich is what we just discovered is like you spend a lot. Being wealthy, what is that? It's not just to have more than enough money to meet your needs, the basic needs, but basically it's also having money work for you so that you don't have to work. And that's the ultimate wealth hack. Is actually the life hack there is when money starts to work for you, you become free. You have things that you can call passive income. Passive income means the opposite of active income. Active income is if you sell your time. You are in a job, 9 to 5. You get at the end of the month, you get your paycheck. That's passive. That's active income, and you have to go back repeatedly to work for your job in order to deserve that paycheck. And if you stop working, so does the money stop flowing to your bank account. If you want to get wealthy, you have to actually kind of lock in a difference between what you earn from your paycheck and what you actually let go. And that difference, every month, you have to buy assets. Assets could be things such as stocks, ETFs, mutual funds. It could be a business. You could actually invest it in your own business. If you're young, definitely start by investing in yourself, in your skills and so on to increase your earning potential, right? But over time, you have to try to make the step from this active income to passive income. That's a very important part there. That's what wealthy people do, because you never see wealthy people that are stressed because they have to do overtime at work or they have to do whatever that is needed. So that's to keep a job and the paycheck, right? You don't see wealthy people do that. This is actually the so-called rich people who they have to suddenly go for business trips. The boss asks them to do overtime and so on. And then sometimes they have health issues later because they're under tremendous amounts of pressure to maintain the rich lifestyle. So having money work for you, that's the goal, right? So wealthy people They may not have the fancy car. Actually, we saw that the average millionaire in the US, or most millionaires in the US, they actually drive Toyotas. That's in the statistic. They don't have the super expensive real estate. They live in the average neighborhoods, in an average home. Maybe look at Warren Buffett. He still lives in a house that he bought in the 1950s for about 40,000 US dollars. He never moved the home, even though he could afford it a million times over. And yeah, and actually it's possible. That's maybe a very interesting point. It's possible for people that make actually lower salaries in their life to be wealthier than people who earn a lot more after their work life is over. So if you look at somebody starts working at 20, stops at 60, or 25 to 65, you got about 40 years, which is a long time if you actually work for the whole time. Some people, they manage to save bigger chunks in percentage terms of a smaller salary than the people who have a lot of income and who spend most of it. And at the end of this 40 years, the people with the lower income, they may end up richer, wealthier. They may not have had such a rich life, but at the end, they will have a much better retirement. And isn't that great? Because one day you want to stop worrying about money. And this is probably what defines wealthy the most. You have the money, but you don't worry about the money. You don't think about the money all the time. Money is simply working for you, and you have more time in your life. You have more freedom. You have more peace of mind. That's the ultimate goal. So wealthy people spend less and invest more. And wealthy people also, they understand that they have to turn money into assets. Assets, what are assets? Assets are things like we just said, stocks and so on, that put money into your pocket. So you have to find things that make money for you. You send your money to work for you. And if you do that well, you can build wealth. Money and your money that you put to work will actually help you build wealth. And at the end, your wealth will grow without your input. And that's the beauty of the whole story here. So if you want to become wealthy, don't just focus on increasing your paycheck alone. This is something you can do. You should do when you're young. But it's something, if you only focus on increasing your paycheck, it's not a sustainable strategy. Sooner or later, you have to switch from that into something that will help you grow your wealth, which is buying assets. By all means, avoid the get rich quick schemes. This is usually like the shortcuts, the people who sell you things and promise you will be super wealthy overnight. It doesn't work. Or maybe it works, like you win the lottery, and then, like we said at the beginning, people don't know how to handle the money, and they end up even more desperate, maybe sometimes even with depressions, and bankrupt. That's usually the case. There are certain exceptions to that rule, of course, but the vast majority of people who make a windfall like that, they are not capable of holding the fort, and having this mindset is not something you can get overnight as well. So the difference between rich and wealthy, I would say most of it is in your mind, and you can start making a transformation from this whatever mindset you have towards this wealthy mindset by starting to focus more on increasing the gap between your income and your expenses, by putting the difference to work for you, by buying assets, and then by simply finding ways to actually deploy this gap into more productive assets, into assets that actually make even more money for you. And that will actually speed up the whole thing. And then if you have a timeline, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, whatever it is, time will actually be on your side, because if it starts compounding, which means like your interest is being added to the capital, and then the next year you have 2 interests being added and so on, the whole thing will speed up, that at the end you can actually take yourself out of this equation and you are free. You are truly wealthy. This is the end goal. So avoid unnecessary splurges, stupid expenses, focus on building a collection of great assets. Also, don't just put all your assets into one basket. Or you can put them into one basket if you know how to manage it well. So most people who get wealthy with their companies, they have a vast majority of their wealth bound inside their company. But there the problem is if you are the CEO or the only person that actually knows how to run your business and your company, if something happens to you, may it be a wealth incident, or you may pass away early, you may have a car accident, well, then your family might not be able to take over. So there's the other problem. You have to think also for the people that are dependent on you in that way. So if you build wealth, build it in a way that actually the wealth itself can work for itself without you. And that's truly passive income in the end. So yeah, and focus on building a collection of these great assets over time. Invest as soon as you can and as much as you can. So don't wait until you are 40 or 50 and say, oh, retirement is 15 years from now, I haven't saved anything. That's not the way to do it. If you're watching this on YouTube, I hope you are maybe still a little bit younger, and it's early enough to get started if you haven't started yet. And the younger you are, the better it is. And don't delay it. Start now, invest. Think long term. Wealth is a mindset. It's a marathon to get there. Look at it like many little sprints. It's not something you have to head down and run. There was a beautiful blog post I have read written by the banker on FIRE. He actually wrote that the people who have higher earnings over their career path are not the ones who get into the high-paid job at age 23 and then they get a burnout by age 26, 27 because they do all the overtime and so on. But it's rather the people that maybe at the beginning have an average kind of workload, an average compensation, but they stay the course and they keep growing. So the same it is with your assets. You don't have to find your crazy investment that will bring you to your goal right away. Rather go for something that is sustainable, because volatility can go both ways. It can also go down. So if you are wrong on this, you can wipe out all your effort very fast. So diversification is something, if you haven't invested yet, I'm a big fan of ETFs. So you can actually invest into an index. And if you believe that humanity will keep advancing, people will get more rich, the companies in that economy will do well, then that's the way to go. Then you have nothing to lose. So that's probably the easiest way for that side. So think long term. Wealth is a mindset. No need to rush. And once you have started this process, you will probably see after a few years how your wealth is growing, and you can probably see if you have assets that pay you interest. So maybe you have one day probably you may have a real estate that pays you rental income. It could be something that suddenly you realize, oh, money is coming to me, and this can replace half of my paycheck, or it can replace 20% of my paycheck. And then you see already by how much, in terms of percents, you have reached financial freedom, which is something I would argue wealthy people have. If you are truly wealthy, you still can work if you want to. You can work if you like it, right? And if you enjoy it. And I'm still young, so I also like to work and do some projects like this YouTube. I like to do my blog. With Jase of Fast Track Money, we are working on a money course that is launching later this month. So you can see all the links in the show notes to this YouTube. So we also work, but it's also a form of passion work for me. I really enjoy to help people with their money and to hopefully help them in a way that they can make more of their lives. Financial Imagineer is more about imagineering your own life, your dream life. And Imagineering means you engineer your imagination, right? And you use money to do that. That's my blog. So If you have wealth and money invested, you have more time for yourself, you have more time for your family, and you have more time. And that's now the best part, I think. A lot of people, they focus so much on their job, they don't realize that maybe they could make much more money if they are independent, or if they are selling themselves, market themselves to a market. Like, there's so many people or companies who need help from good professionals. So if you actually are independent, you could make much more money than if you are staying in your job. So the question is simply, on the way to wealth, how much assets is enough for you to cut the cord eventually, right? And to make this jump to market yourself. So the wealthy people, very often they have their own businesses. But this is not necessary. I just say it, that's usually the average multimillionaire is somehow wealthy because they have worked on their business in one stage in their life, and at also another stage before that, they had to make a decision once to kind of leave the corporate world and make a transition into becoming an entrepreneur. But you can become wealthy without being an entrepreneur, of course. So this is not something mandatory if you want to embark on this journey. So yeah, while now to conclude, the rich, they seem to have a lot of money to spend, but maybe the wealthy, they are even better off because they don't worry about the money at all. So which one would you like to have, right? Is it that you have to maintain this facade, the expensive car, the jewelry, the travel, and so forth? Or is it more the other side where you say, okay, money is good enough, I rather live my life the way I want, and I have freedom. One side is rich, the other side is wealthy. This is probably the thing I wanted to share with you today. If you have any questions on this topic, please feel free. We have comments open, and I'll be happy to reply. Please also click the subscribe button. And next week, we will be talking about retirement planning. It's like the next step. So what does it mean? And would you know if I ask you now, when can you retire? If you wanted to, if you want to retire early, what is needed for that? If you have any questions around that, please be sure to join us next week. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.